All right. Well, hi everyone. My name is Max Becker, and I want to share with you guys some of my thoughts and some tips I've kind of picked up from my time working at Microsoft. So, Alex has kicked me off here. So what do I do at Microsoft? I don't make sandwiches. I'm a software engineer, and that means that I write code. Now, my code doesn't look like this anymore. It's a little more than Hello World. It looks like those things at the bottom, which is OneDrive client. Specifically, I've had a chance to work on Windows 8.1. which is pretty cool because my code ships out with every copy of Windows. And now I work on the Mac client for OneDrive, which is pretty cool because now I'm a Mac developer at Microsoft. Now these are all big projects. So when you're doing a big project, it helps to have tools. I like to use UML because when you're building a small house, you don't really need as big a blueprint. But when you're building a skyscraper, blueprints help. And UML kind of serves that purpose. It gives you the design guidelines you need. Documentation. You all hear it here at school, but it's actually really important. And it's not just for the people that you're working with and the people that are going to use your stuff. It's important for you. I go back a year and look at my own stuff. I don't remember what's going on exactly. I have to read my own notes, and then I get mad at myself when my notes aren't good enough. Now, it's important that you're using the right tools when you're a programmer. You may have heard the phrase that if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's important that you use hammers on nails and screwdrivers on screws. Now, when I talk about tools, I'm not talking about pliers and screws. I'm talking about frameworks and programming languages. Okay? It's important to use the right languages for the right reasons and the right frameworks for the right stuff. You're probably not going to go make a video game with Rails. Now, it's important to keep learning more tools, okay? Like the ones that just showed there. My timing's a little off, so we're going to move on. We're going to talk about C++. We use a lot of C++ at Microsoft. All right? C++ is still maintained a lot. We use C++ 11. All right? So it's still alive and kicking, and it's fast. And C++ 14 is out. A cool trick of C++ is that it's got macros, just like in C. Those can be good for doing things like logging, or they could be bad for doing things like this maximum function, which you can ask me about why that's bad later. All right? Now, less code is better than more code. Why? Because these two pieces of code do exactly the same thing. Now, which one of these do you want to go back and read later on? All right? Probably not this one on the right, because I can't even tell what's going on, even when it's crammed into that little space. All right? So less code is more. You want elegant designs. Now, threads are kind of the same thing. You go in, 357, you learn about threading, and you're like, yes, threads! I'm going to launch all the threads I possibly can. And then maybe you take parallels and you're like, okay, fewer threads. Fewer threads is like that elephant punching the car, which is your processor. All right? It's also important when you're a software engineer not to always reinvent the wheel. You know, go out and use the standard libraries that are already there. Because maybe when you reinvent the wheel, it might end up looking like this wheel. And that doesn't work quite as good. Open source is also great. But it's not so great when it's not fully implemented, like this bicycle that's missing brakes and pedals. Although it's a cool looking bicycle, don't get me wrong. I've had this experience using Mono, which is the open source implementation of the .NET framework. Debuggers are hugely important, okay? Pretty much how good you are of an engineer is directly related to how good you are with the debugger. Debuggers are your friends. They're going to be your friends when you're out of here like crazy, because print line debugging doesn't always work. All right? It's also important to eat with your team. Why? Because you collaborate with them a lot, and it's important to share your ideas with them. And eating lunch with them is a good way for you to get fuel and keep going at doing whatever you're doing, and to communicate with your team. Share your ideas. It's important to ask your team questions too. All right? But not just any questions. You want to have well-founded questions. All right? You don't want to come out there and say, oh, like this guy, why do ghosts have clothes? You know? Have, some concrete background behind that. You know, do a little research into ghosts, then ask why ghosts have clothes. All right? It's important to speak up. Share your ideas. Because if you don't speak up, things don't change. Things don't improve. You know, you're an engineer. The whole thing is to go in, find problems, solve them, and make them better. Aside from that, it's good to have side projects. Now, I don't mean go out and fix airplanes. That might not be the best side project, unless you want to. Don't let me stop you. All right? But side projects are great. It's a way to improve your skill as an engineer. My boss goes out and learns Android programming, and that's how he improves himself. All right? Now, schedules. Yes, I live by a schedule now. Why? Because I ship real code. Schedules are important, though, because it keeps your work scoped down, it keeps you on task, and it keeps you focused on what you're doing. All right? At the end of your schedule, it's important to have a retrospective, all right? And we do this here in like software engineering courses and everything. But that's the time when you reflect on yourself, say what happened, what's going on, am I good, this was bad, were my estimates right? We do that all throughout Microsoft. Anyway, I enjoy being a software engineer. These are some of the things I've learned. do whatever works for you, whether it's drinking coffee or in my case, drinking beer and playing putt-putt golf with my team. So thank you guys very much.